If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Smash that like button, retweet button, share button. And over on the Facebook or on the YouTube page, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. We are brought to you by 99jersey.com. Great website, great jerseys on there in their collection there. High school jerseys, college jerseys, jerseys from movies, TV shows. It's a premier site to get some really cool jerseys that are, not the basic Eagles or Sixers jerseys. So make sure you check them out, 99jersey.com. Use promo code TRENDING at checkout. Get you 15% off. So check them out. Much appreciate that. We got a jam-packed show this morning. I am Phil Stifle, your host. Jason will be joining me shortly. We got some internet issues there with Jason, but he's going to be joining me from his car in a moment. I actually think there he is right there. Jason, how you doing this morning?
What's going on?
Absolutely nothing. We're here to talk Phillies today. We got a jam-packed episode to talk a lot of content all on the Phillies. This will be probably the first show that is like solely or as close to solely Phillies talk as we've had so far this year, because there's a lot to take out of last night's game. Phillies beat the Mets, of course, which is great. It's always great when you beat the Mets, 5-4, but it's how they beat the Mets and what happened throughout the game. So I don't even want to waste any time. Are we ready to watch? Thank everybody checking in on YouTube. Thanks a lot. Philly podcast. Yeah, the Nets play the Cavaliers tonight. We'll dab into that at the end of the show. Scotty, good morning. Giddy up and good morning. Great Phillies win. LOL, the Mets, of course. Instead of Sixers in 5, it's Phillies in 5 now. I think that's the new thing. But I want to dive right into, before we talk about the game itself, the Alec Bohm situation from last night. And, we've talked about it countless times, Jason, whether you want to talk the platoon part of it or the Alec Bohm just might not be a third baseman part of it. But Alec Bohm last night had an atrocious first 3 innings. 3 errors in the first 3 innings. And let's be honest. I mean, they weren't even like borderline errors. They were just straight awful plays by him. And you kind of start to see after the first one, I always like to call it the domino effect, the quicksand effect. You can just see him sinking further. And after he made it out, actually, the fans cheered him sarcastically, kind of like they would do with Ben Simmons when he would make a free throw or something like that. And you could see him lip sync, I effing hate this place. And then, of course, social media went abuzz. Everyone's trying to lip read. Was he really saying, I hate these plays and all these other things that they're saying? And you know what? To Alec Bohm's credit, after the game, he's like, yeah, I did say that. I'm sorry. The emotions got the better of me. I do not hate this place. But, in the heat of the moment, my emotions took over. So, to an extent, I've become a massive Alec Bohm fan overnight because he owned up to and admitted how emotions take over, as, the human being element of being an athlete. Now, it might be part of Joe Girardi's fault for putting him in that situation, but what are your thoughts on how Alec Bohm just, what he did, the heat of the moment, but also how he owned up to it?
I mean, I think it's super impressive. I think it shows a lot of maturity on his part for being a young kid. Uh, most people would have dodged it. You know, most people would have said, "Oh, I didn't say that. That wasn't
Yeah.
what I said," or they would have made a million excuses for besides taking ownership. So yeah, absolutely. Love that the fact that he did that. I mean, you know me. I'm a huge Alec Bohm guy, but I think you and I are both in the same boat on where we're at with him as
Right.
far as what we think, the franchise should do, moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. First off, you said, I mean, Alec Bohm's 25 years old. He could have easily seen on social media people saying it could have said, he could have said it was something else, and people were misunderstanding what his lips were saying. But yeah, the maturity. Alec Bohm. The problem with the Phillies in general are that they've got 9 different DHs on this team, so somebody's got to play in the field. Whether it's Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, who has an error this year already, Reese Hoskins. All these guys are being put. We lost Jason. Yeah, we're gonna have issues with Jason all morning. It's okay. Alec Bohm has a lot of issues there, or the Phillies have a lot of issues with a lot of guys going to be playing out of position. But the problem is these guys, the platoons, these young guys, the platoons. It just doesn't work. But Alec Bohm, standing up, manning up, saying what he said, admitting it. It just goes to show such maturity for a 25-year-old kid. And let's be honest, it did not affect Alec Bohm one iota at the plate, and it hasn't this year. I mean, he officially had one at bat last night. He 1-for-1 with a double, but he drew 2 walks. We're going to talk about the game itself and the comeback in the 8th inning. He sparked that rally by drawing a leadoff walk. Normally, when you have a young 25-year-old player that is just beyond struggling, knows the fan base is, ready to boo him at a moment's notice, that would affect his at bats. That would affect how he's, handling that situation, and it's not. It's clearly showing. I'm bringing up his things here real quick. I think he's only had a few at bats. He's only had 3 at bats. He's got 3 hits in his 3 at bats, 2 doubles, a single. He's also drawn 3 walks. So he's not letting the defensive liability and the defensive domino quicksand effect of what's going on affect him anywhere else on the game. You see it with the Sixers or with football. When you start to struggle in one aspect of your game, a lot of young kids, they collapse everywhere else. And it's not happening with Alec Bohm, which is another sign of massive maturity for this kid. Agreed on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm are mature far beyond their age. I'm getting that vibe from both of these kids, and like I said, I'm just happy that the Phillies went with some young guys on this roster. Even that they went out and they spent all this money, and bringing Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos and Brad Hand, and the list goes on and on. They had quite an off season, but the fact of the matter remains is that in any team that wins a championship, there has to be some guys from the youth that help. I mean, you look even teams like the Astros, like obviously they were built like mostly through their farm system, and then they signed some free agents. But every team has a different blueprint. But at the end of the day, you need these guys to succeed, and that's why it was so upsetting when Moniak went down in spring training, because he was having such a great spring, and we see that Matt Vierling is struggling. And listen, I like Matt Vierling, but at the end of the day, for me, I think I'm putting my laurels on Moniak at being a number 1 pick. I mean, we really need this kid to be good, and it was just a momentum killer to lose him, right when he was just getting his feet.
Oh, we lost you there again. No, you're
Did
back. You're back. No, you're back there. It just froze up for like a half a second there. You're right. The question though is he left again. The question though remains: what do the Phillies do? Because Alec Bohm, there's a theory to be said. he's got to be thrown back out there tonight just to keep that confidence going. But you probably got to play Bryson Stott because you can't have Bryson Stott sit 2 days in a row. You can't sit Didi. Didi's a veteran, and Didi struggled last year, but he had a huge hit last night, and he's a veteran. You can't sit Jin Segura. Hell, he's the leading home run hitter on this team. You can't sit Nick Castellanos. He's your DH now, which is strange that he's playing DH a lot more than Kyle Schwarber is. I'm really surprised about that. Can't sit Kyle Schwarber. You can't sit Rhys Hoskins. It's almost like somebody has to sit. So unfortunately, these young kids, the Stotts and the Bohms, are going to have to handle this platoon, which we agree is not the right way to go about it. But, it really, really, sorry, trying to send an invite to a Mets guy here to get a Mets guy on the air here. It's really not going to be good for their, consistency to constantly be sat. We'll see how it goes here. But Alec Bohm again. There we go. Yeah, it's all right.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, you're doing your best there. You're hanging in there.
Technical glitches.
Yeah. So what I'm saying here, Jason, is what do the Phillies do? Because we agree the young kids shouldn't be platooned. They should be playing every day. But unfortunately, they have no choice because the Phillies have a collection now of hitters on their team that everybody has to play. You should, in my theory, throw Alec Bohm out there today just because of the mental aspect of it, the confidence. But you can't sit Stott again. Didi, huge hit last night, so you can't sit him. Gene Segura, leads the team in home runs. You can't sit him. You can't sit Nick Castellanos because he's the DH. And so Aaron's checking in. I don't know how to send it through text message. I sent it to your Twitter account. Aaron, I just put your phone number on the screen.
I sent it to his phone, but tell him the recent one I sent. I can't text him while I'm on here.
Yeah, we can't text it because we're on the air, but I don't even know how to text the link.
I did text it.
Oh, Jason did text it to you. All right. Well, we got to get a Mets fan on the show here. And I'm sorry for flashing your phone number up on the screen. Everybody call Aaron today. I just did. Oh man. Anyway, but what do you do? I mean, you can't sit Nick Castellanos. He's the DH. Where are you going to play these guys? So unfortunately, it's going to come down to to Stott at this point, and Alec Bohm having to platoon, unless you're going to send Alec Bohm down to the minors. And it's kind of concerning because these mental errors and these issues with this platoon are going to continue to happen unless they get every day out there to kind of get out of this little, funk that they're in. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on what they should do to handle this situation.
Well, I know what I would do if I was Dave Dombrowski.
What's up? Aaron? Hold on. We're going to cut you off there, Jason, because we got Mr. Met himself.
What's up, guys?
We got Jason's partner on Sports and Metal, Aaron Savage. He is Mr. Met himself. How you feeling this morning after that big win you guys had last night?
That was a brutal game last night, guys. Brutal. Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you loud and clear, brother. Loud and clear.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
What happened? How did the Mets blow that game?
Well, you know what? I got a lot to say about that, and I think you guys can relate. I think it's an epidemic throughout Major League Baseball, and I watch you guys every day bitching about the Phillies, and I know what you guys dealt with your bullpen last year, and this just goes to show it's league-wide. It's an epidemic in baseball. I can go back to, Saturday's game when Nola was cruising for you guys, and Jay had commented in a couple shows I saw how in that circumstance he thought Girardi should have hooked him when he started getting his balls up in the zone. And Jay's right. What happened to playing games where you leave your starter in until you can see that he's fatiguing and there's a reason to pull this guy? So that was a good example of where a guy should have been removed from a game. But that's very rare. For the most part, what we see in baseball today is guys are looking for reasons to pull guys out instead of looking for reasons to leave them in. So let's take last night, for example. Mets got a great 2 innings from Taijuan Walker. Unfortunately, he had to leave the game due to an injury. I thought it was his knee acting up. It bothered him in the spring. Turns out shoulder fatigue. So that's a legit reason to pull a guy. So then you bring David Peterson in, who is stretched out as a starter. He gives you four lockdown innings. his worst inning was the first one where he came in because didn't really have a lot of time to warm up. But how many times do you see starters, as they're progressing into the game, start getting into a rhythm, into a groove? They warm up, and then you see the manager pull the guy out. Case in point, the Mets last night. At least I would have given David Peterson one more inning, get him that fifth inning of relief. Then you got 6 innings, and you have 3 innings you got to get through with your bullpen. Because I'll tell you what I always say. Jay hears me all the time. I don't care if you have a bullpen of 6 Mariano Riveras. On any given night, somebody is bound to have a bad day. So I don't know if you're a gambler, Phil, but if you keep changing your pitchers, there's a higher odds that one of them is not going to have it that night, even if all 6 are Mariano Rivera. Everybody has a bad day. So that's exactly what happened to the Mets last night. And you guys see it with the Phillies all the time. And I can go back to Sunday's game. Mets started the season 3-0 against the Nats, lost Sunday's game in a similar fashion. They had Carlos Carrasco pitching. He retired 15 straight when they pulled him out. The only run he gave up was in the first. Another example, a guy gets to a groove. He's cruising. Now, I understand we're no longer in an era where guys are going to go 9 innings, and I understand it's a shortened spring training, so I'm not even asking for 100 pitches. I'm talking, can I get through 80 pitches? Can I get through 80? They took Carrasco out on Sunday after he retired 15 straight, and he had 72 pitches. Then, again, you're playing the odds. You're going to keep making pitching changes. So they got like an inning in the third out of Shreve, I believe it was. And they bring this guy, they bring that. Dude, at some point, there's going to be cracks in the foundation. You see it with the Phillies. It happens with every team. Honestly, that disgusts me. I love having Buck Showalter as our manager now, and he's done a lot of good things. I think he brings a veteran presence to the clubhouse, but I have seen nothing different as far as how he's managing the pitchers than what I've seen from Luis Rojas or what you guys see with Joe Girardi or it's a league. I can't even blame it on the manager anymore because it's every team's manager. It's going to happen to you guys. It could be tonight. It could be the next night. You keep making pitching changes. You're playing with fire, and that's what happened to the Mets last night. And it sucks, and I'm pissed off. And you guys got this one, so.
Hey, I didn't even know Carlos Carrasco was on the Mets. I'll be honest with you.
They got him in the Lindor trade 2 years ago. He was hurt. He was hurt last year. Another reason I'm excited about this team this year, because since you're bringing it up, they got Carrasco and Lindor in that trade. Lindor was like not Lindor that you expect. So I'm expecting him to bounce back. Carrasco was coming off an injury in Cleveland, so last year was kind of a lost season for him, and he seems like he's back. But then you never know. Now you got Walker hurt, and DeGrom.
He was a prospect. He was it? Didn't he really get sick really bad when he was in Cleveland? Didn't he have cancer or something like that? And
yes, he did. He did.
Or something like that.
Yes.
So being that he was a former Phillies prospect, and I watched him come up through the ranks with the Phillies, and then everything he went through. I've always been a fan of him, but now I can't be a fan of him anymore because he's on the Mets. So it's kind of disappointing.
Sorry, Phil. Yeah, but I know you guys are riding high. I'm going to chime in on that Alec Bohm thing too, if I may, as a Mets fan.
You talked about it as we start the show about how mature it actually shows him after the game, admitting, not trying to say, no, that's not what I said. You guys are misreading my lips. Yeah, I said it. It was a frustration in the moment thing. What are your thoughts on that?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think it's unfortunate he was caught on camera mouthing those words. I think in a different era, we would have never found out about it. So on the one hand, I get it. Like, oh my God, that's the real way to endear yourself to the Philly crowd. But on the other hand, it's kind of not his fault because it was a private moment with a teammate that we weren't supposed to hear. But I think it speaks volumes about his character that he stood in front of the locker at the end of the game and owned up to it. And I think the Phillies fans, just for that, should give him a standing ovation next time he's at bat or in the field.
I think the Phillies fans will embrace that because we've been talking a lot about, lately on this show with the NBA playoffs about to start, Doc Rivers, and how he's so demeaning to the reporters and demeaning to the fans and the way he talks to people, and Alec Bohm on the complete other end of the equation, he could have been like, no, he could have done literally anything last night else. And we wouldn't have thought second of it because, he's struggling, he's got one foot out the door, whatever you want to say, but he owned up to it. He manned up to it. And he's a better person. If I was at the game tonight, I would give him a standing ovation when he gets out in the field. Absolutely. For just owning up to his mistake. 100%. He doesn't have to own up to the errors. He just has to own up to what he said. because you know Philly fans and Philly, you say something like that and you don't own up to it, dude, we'll run you out of town. We
No
don't want
doubt.
people. We don't want people that don't want to be here. So
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Absolutely. I will tell you this, though. I like Alec Bohm. I'm a fan. I told Jay when he came up, back in 2020 when he came up, hit 338 and that cup of coffee. I think last season was kind of a lost season for him. And I expect him to have a big offensive season. And I'll tell you what, the defensive stuff that's going on is all mental. He's throwing from a 3/4 arm angle. He needs to start getting over the top with his throws. That's why his throws are sailing. You watch Alec Bohm throw, he's throwing almost sidearm, throwing 3/4 arm angle. All the throws are sailing. So it's just a mental thing, and it's like almost like if he keeps doing it, it's going to become a problem because it gets more and more in his head. It's
that's the problem, and me and Jason have talked about it. That Alec Bohm, I mean, he's an athlete. He's not a bad hitter. And you saw that last night, even with as bad as the game went, had a couple walks, had a double, but he might not be. Did we lose him down there? He looks like his face hasn't moved in like 3 seconds there, Jason.
I can't tell.
Yeah, it looks like he hasn't moved like an inch. Anyway, we lost him there. Yeah. Anyway, we don't need any Mets on this screen anymore. Anyway, right?
The other half of Sports and Metal is canceled.
Yeah, that's right.
Now he'll be back.
Yeah. Well, whatever. We don't need him back anyway. Let's talk about the game itself a little bit. Let's recap last night's game. Obviously, we touched on the errors that Alec Bohm had. Surprisingly, none of the runs that Ranger Suarez gave up were unearned runs. They were all earned runs. Ranger Suarez had his first start of the year last night. He didn't look bad, considering he didn't have much, time in camp. He pitched 63 pitches. Couldn't get out of the third inning. He gave up 3 runs. I don't know. I don't know how much of the game you watched. What did you think of what you saw with Ranger Suarez last night?
I mean, I watched the entire game. I thought it was an unfortunate situation and circumstance because of that first inning. I mean, the error by Bohm. Obviously, the ball comes off of Suarez's, glove, and Kruk even made a point on the. Obviously, I was watching. I wasn't at the game, but made a comment about how good of a defensive player that Ranger Suarez is. That he reminds him of like a Zach Wheeler and very good in the field. And obviously that led to a 3-run inning. I mean, you think about it, we wouldn't even had to make that comeback had we not given up. Because if Bohm doesn't throw that ball, instead of throwing it and the ball sails and they score, I think we get out of that inning with no runs.
Right.
And that just shows you the momentum that it can cause. And listen, at the end of the day, we all agree that this team is built all on offense. It's going to live and die by the offense. But bottom line is, I didn't think Ranger Suarez pitched bad. It was his first start. And listen, I think we tend to, once again, yesterday was Monday, overreaction Monday. We talked about it yesterday on the pregame, how we overreact in Philly. That's just the Philly thing. We get highs and lows, like a lot of times, they're inflated either way. I'm not going to get overinflated on my opinion of Ranger Suarez in his first start when he's basically an abbreviated spring training compared to even the rest of the guys. And now it's his first start. I mean, listen, they gave up 3 runs in the first inning. Obviously, he's on a pitch count. I hate pitch counts. Aaron just talked. He went on his rant a few minutes ago about it. We all feel the same way, but I'm not going to get down on a guy because it's his first start. So
and yeah, he didn't look bad. He had good life on his fastball and stuff like that. We also got to remember it is the Mets we are going up against. I mean, top of their order is one of the best top of the orders. I mean, they got Lindor, they got Alonso, they got Marte, who the Phillies looked at. They have a pretty stout top of the order right there. So Ranger Suarez being able to get out of that first inning with that error that kind of started that domino effect. I mean, it was a really strong step forward for Ranger Suarez. But again, if Ranger Suarez, everybody talks about Ranger Suarez, he's going to be a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Maybe he's got to get out of that inning without giving up 3 runs if he wants to have that. But we're going. Well,
I'll tell you some interesting stuff. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. Ranger Suarez never threw more than 28 pitches in an inning last season, and in that first inning, he threw 33 pitches. So it really shows how the Mets work the count. But you know what? I'm not, to Jay's point, I'm not against pitch counts in this circumstance. I get it. It was an abbreviated spring training. I'm just against the ridiculousness of the pitch counts. You know what I'm saying? Like, we used to see a guy throw 90, 100 pitches in his last spring training start. Now, we're not seeing that in May in the regular season. As far as Suarez goes last night, I get the pitch count. It was he had the least work of anybody in the spring. You know what? I think at the end of the day, it actually worked out in the Phillies' favor that he was yanked when he was, because he didn't have it. You know, I think the momentum of that game kind of changed when Suarez left the game. Mets stopped hitting. Mets had one hit, I think, the last 5 innings of the game.
I don't know who Nick Nelson is. I mean, he's in our bullpen.
He should
Never
be the
heard
surprise of the game.
Yeah, 4 innings, 1 run.
Surprise of the game, 4 innings. I mean,
he gave you 45. You talk about how Peterson. You talk about how Peterson saved, or kept the Mets in the game with his, long stretch out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Nelson, the same thing for the Phillies. And honestly,
yeah, the one difference though, if you look, Nelson, you could see got gassed at the end, so that was the time to pull him. Nelson was cruising, and then he walked. I think he threw 5 or 6 straight balls, and then they pulled him. That's an area. That's a spot where you want to make that change. Whereas with Peterson, he just cruised through those innings, and then they yanked him for no reason. That's where I bang my head against the wall. There's a time we've seen it twice with the Phillies. The Aaron Nola game the other day when Jay makes the argument they should have yanked him. But you know what, Jay? At the end of the day, I'd rather see a manager make that mistake than the mistake of constantly prematurely yanking guys. I'm glad, not that I'm, as if I was a Phillies fan, not that I'd be glad that Girardi left him in too long and they almost blew the game, but it's a mistake I'd rather see, right? But like, for example, if a guy makes a mistake on the bases because he's over hustling, isn't that more acceptable than a guy that's not running out of the box? They're both mistakes, but one you could deal with, right?
Absolutely. So continuing on with the game then, obviously, you had the 3 runs, but it was pretty much a quiet game till late in the game. And I joke a lot that, the Phillies, it's going to be, everyone says defense wins championships. Well, the Phillies are going to try to buck that trend and say that no matter how bad the defense is, and obviously Bohm had an awful game last night on defense. They're going to try to buck that trend and say that we're going to outscore, we're going to out-hit, we don't care what the defense is like. And last night is step 1 in proving that theory correct. And Alec Bohm is the poster child because he had probably one of the worst defensive games we've seen in the last couple of years. I don't know about the Mets, but the Phillies, I haven't seen an outing like that, like anybody else.
It was brutal. But I said, it harkens back to Chuck Knobloch.
Yeah, it didn't affect him at the plate. He had a double earlier in the game. He led off that, 8th inning comeback with a walk. And the Phillies offense, I mean, you look how in a short 4 games, how some of these guys are hitting really well, but some of them aren't. Bryce Harper has 1 hit on the season. JT, before the 8th inning last night, only had 1 hit on the season. But when you've got to go through, Alec Bohm draws a walk. Then you bring in Camargo, to pinch hit for Vierling. He gets a hit. Then you got Schwarber. Then you got Real Muto. Then you got Harper. Then you got Castellanos. Then you get Hoskins. Then you get Didi. I mean, I don't know if you can go through a 7th, 8th, 9th inning and have that many great hitters in a row and not be fearful as the opposing team. Because it's very hard to consistently get all those guys out and not give up a late rally.
Phil, I agree with that, and I agree that I expect this to be a big race this year between these teams, and that kind of gets me more pissed because you asked me about how I feel about last night's game, because another thing, as much as I've been a fan of Buck Showalter so far, again, certain things are just hearkening back to what we've seen before with Luis Rojas or Mickey Callaway. Why are you going into a big series in Philly where you want to get early momentum, right? You want to make an early statement in the season, and that's the game you decide we're not going to play Jeff McNeil. We're not going to play Robbie Cano. Because I keep talking to Jay, I think the Mets lineup is as good as any lineup in the league. But you're not seeing that lineup when we're throwing fucking James McCann and Luis Guillermo out there. Sorry if I'm not allowed to drop F-bombs on your show, but I just did. Why is Luis Guillermo playing second base at Citizens Bank Park? Why? You have a potential batting champion in Jeff McNeil with power in Citizens Bank Park. What are we doing here? Do we want to win this game? Sorry.
No.
Do we want to win the game?
Dude, hold on. We're not trying to find out why the Mets didn't win. We're trying to talk about why the Phillies won.
I'm trying to. That's why you brought me on.
Dude, the Mets. Let's sidetrack from the game for a second. There's nothing better than going to. I mean, I haven't been to a Phillies Mets game in a few years, but there's nothing better than going to the bank or back in the day at the Vet, and being a part of a Phillies Mets baseball game. The rivalry,
no
because
question.
So many Mets fans will come down and make the trek. I don't know, Aaron, if you were watching. I know Jason was watching it. The amount of couples that were on screen with one person, the guy wearing a Mets gear and the woman wearing a Phillies gear, or vice versa, that they showed on screen last night was hilarious. And
I know. We see it. Yep.
No offense. I mean, if I was dating a girl and she showed up to my house for whatever in a Mets shirt, I'd be like, all right, it's over. It's done. I would have ended that. I dated a girl for a little while in college, and then
Opposites attract, Phil.
No. I showed up on a Sunday to her. I showed up to her apartment to watch football one Sunday, and she had a Giants jersey on. I ended that relationship, no lie, in 3 seconds. I'm like, there's no way I could date a Giants fan. No way.
Well, that I can't blame you for.
Right, exactly. But there is no experience, Jason, Aaron, like going to I know you guys have gone together multiple times, but I just harken back. I remember going to a Phillies doubleheader at the Vet back in the late 90s. And it was when Rico Brogna still played for the Phillies, and the Phillies were just a terrible team. And the Mets fans.
And you remember Rico was a Met, so there's the little more Met Philly tie.
The Mets were heckling the hell out of him. I'm looking at these Mets fans. I'm like, dude, you're heckling Rico Brogna of all people. Why would you heckle? I mean, he's a great guy. He's not going to win the game or lose the game for either team. Just but it was just that experience of how the Mets fans, and we would heckle whoever we could on their team. That it is one of the greatest experiences to go to one of those games. It's sad that we're not going. We should be doing
absolutely.
The three of us should be going to one of these games this weekend, but unfortunately.
Well, I asked Aaron to go yesterday, but unfortunately, because of work.
Yeah, with work, I couldn't. Couple things to your point, Phil. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you heard me. It's a little bit of a bad connection, so if I'm interrupting anybody, I apologize. I might be on a delay, but Rico Brogna, I don't know if you remember, he was a Met. He started with the Mets, but neither here nor there. You're right. Some of my best memories, and Jay will attest to this, were 06, 07, 08, that when the Mets-Phillies rivalry was really percolating. Insane. And here's to show I'm not a poor sport. Obviously, we won the division 06. We choked at 07, 08. You guys took it. And then you won your World Series. But one of the great memories I have, it was like, I don't remember if it was 07 or 08. One of the years where the Mets were choking away. There was the one season. It might have been 07. And the Mets had 7-game lead with 17 to play. And the Phillies won the division. You remember that?
07.
Mets had that collapse. I remember 07, yeah. Jay and I, we went to we went to 2 of the 3 games, and I ended up going to the 3rd game myself. But I went to the whole series, and I remember the last game. It was a seesaw battle in September, and it was like 6-4 Mets, 6-6, 7-6 Phillies, 7-7, 8-7 Mets. Phillies ended up winning, I think 9-8 or something. Billy Wagner blew the save, and I remember Jason Worth hit a bomb to win it, and I remember a fan had a sign that said "Worth every penny." And the place was rocking, and I was a Mets fan. But I actually stayed behind as all these Mets fans left, and I went into McFadden's at the end with all my Mets paraphernalia on. And as I walk in, all these Phillies fans, thousands of them in McFadden, start going, asshole, asshole, asshole. What did I do? I took a bow. And guess what? I got so fucking hammered on free drinks, I had to stay at the Holiday Inn. I couldn't get home. So that Phillies fans were very endearing to me for being a good sport about it. But that was like one of the great fun moments, man. Oh, it was unbelievable. Fun time.
I had
man.
That was back when I was young and I had partial season tickets. So I was at a lot of those games in 07 as well. So, then I got really poor and couldn't afford those season tickets anymore. So Aaron, before I let you go here, what do you expect in the rest of the series out of the Phillies and the Mets?
I think it's going to be a good series. I'm not really sure. I think the one game the Mets should take is tomorrow's game because Scherzer's on the bump. Stranger things have happened. Tonight, right. I think, is a little more of a mystery. I can't really make a call. McGill looked really great on opening night, but we're facing Wheeler. But again, Wheeler's coming back from some shoulder fatigue. How long does he pitch? How is it? You know what? I think tonight's a toss-up game. I picked the Mets to win tomorrow's game. Tonight, I'm tossed up. I can't make a pick tonight.
I'm pretty sure, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, Wheeler did not pitch in one single spring training game, did he?
Nope.
No, he did not. He pitched in some rookie ball off the side field.
Off the side.
Yeah, and that's it. So, that
simulated games.
Yeah, whatever that even means. I would actually be slightly concerned more about tonight than tomorrow against Scherzer, because how stretched out is Scherzer, and our offense will want to show up against the best, and I think there's a little motivation. It's a 1:00 game, whatever. I would be more concerned about tonight just because of Wheeler. Our bullpen got taxed a little bit last night. Corey Knebel was not available last night. We don't know if he'll be available tonight. He was. I was ready to start this show off talking about Girardi's mismanaging of the bullpen and not putting Knebel out there last night, but I guess he had the flu or something like that, so he wasn't available. I'd be more concerned tonight with an unstretched out Zach Wheeler taxing the bullpen last night a little bit, and probably needing another guy to go 4 innings tonight out of the bullpen. And again, are you going to hold the Mets offense to 4 runs again? Really 1 run, because we gave up 3 runs in the first inning, all based off of that error. So, will we be able to hold them down again tonight in a bullpen game? I don't know. I'm concerned about tonight's game. I will say that.
I will say one thing. You just got me thinking about it.
Aaron.
What's that, Jay?
Aaron.
I hear you.
Give Philly fans a taste of how angry you were about the Mets letting Wheeler go. I'd like everyone to realize.
Oh, I will. But before I do, I will do that. But before I do, Phil, just remind me something pertaining to last night's game could be different tonight. I forgot to mention it. Diaz, the closer, wasn't available. That also definitely affected them last night. I think Diaz would have came in at 8th inning and stopped the bleeding. But then again, we've seen Diaz blow up, so who knows? But to your point, Jay, I think the best thing the Phillies have done in the last 10 years was sign Wheeler. As a Mets fan, I was so disgusted when they didn't sign him. Think about it. The Mets' big acquisition when they started disassembling that 06, 07, 08 team, one of the big moves was trading Carlos Beltran to the Giants to get the number 1 prospect, number 1 draft pick, Zach Wheeler. He pitched very well early. Then he suffered Tommy John. It took him over 2 years to come back from that Tommy John surgery. The Mets finally got him back healthy, and you could start to see the glimpses of what they had traded for. And then what do? They don't offer him a contract. They say he's not worth that money. And in fairness, it wasn't this ownership group. Steve Cohen hadn't bought the team yet. It was the Coupons. Wilpons. It was the Coupons. But anyway, so they didn't sign him. And then the Phillies signed him. And then, Jay, you were mad. You were like, oh, why'd they sign Zach Wheeler? They should have signed Garrett Cole. Wow. I'm like, Jay, are you out of your fucking mind? I said the Yankees just paid double for Garrett Cole than what you're paying Zach Wheeler. And I'm willing to wager that Zach Wheeler is going to have better numbers over the life of the contract than Cole will. And so far, it's pretty comparable. If anything, it's tilted toward Wheeler. And for half the money.
Actually, it's an interesting. I think it's okay to spend a lot of time talking about the Mets today, just because, we're going to be going to battle all season long for this division and the playoff race with the Mets. Something that you bring up there that I think is really under talked about in the Philadelphia part of it is the new ownership of the Mets. And the fact that, we always talk about the Mets, I joked about it. It didn't matter who the Mets brought in. It's still the Mets. It's not going to work out. But this is they're starting to turn the page as an organization with this new ownership group. Is that a fair understanding on my end of the equation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, put it this way. Steve Cohen is the richest owner in sports. I believe he's worth $16 billion. And the next richest owner, who I don't remember which one it is, but you could look this up, I think is worth $11 billion. And a number of the owners are worth like $4 billion. So, they actually, one of the big things in the lockout.
It's not just about the money, though. It's the fact that he is a guy that's going to hold the GM and the president and the coaches
accountable.
More accountable than the previous couple regimes. It's kind of similar.
And that's where I'm going. Yep. Okay. Yep. And that's where I'm going with this. He clearly is not afraid to throw money around and fix mistakes. Whereas in the prior ownership group, if you saw, I remember when they traded for Mo Vaughn when he was like 600 pounds and past his prime. and he was owed all this money. So rather than sit him, they played him every day because, hey, we're paying this guy. I think this ownership group doesn't matter. If you're not performing, you're not going to play. Money's not going to be an issue, and that's where I was going with the money. That it's not going to be an issue as it was with past. That's why Mets fans called the Wilpons the coupons because they were cheap. But to that point, that's why the lockout lasted so long, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of the owners didn't vote for Steve Cohen to purchase the Mets because of this. They thought he would spend too much. And the second luxury tax that they just created, a lot of the owners are calling it the Steve Cohen tax. In other words, they made a second-tier luxury tax that I don't think the Mets have gone over yet, but they're about to. The Dodgers might be right there. But they actually called it the Steve Cohen tax because they're trying to make it where he doesn't go over the second luxury tax, which is a ridiculous tax rate. So it's almost like I hated the Yankees for all these years for doing it, but now that I'm getting a little treatment as a Mets fan, I don't know. But it is a little different now than when the Yankees used to do it, because if you remember, the Yankees would have a $220 million payroll, and nobody else would have a $100 million payroll. At least now you have the Mets, the Phillies, the Dodgers, multiple teams with like $240 million payroll, so it's a little more competitive. Now it's like the opposite. We got to get these small market teams start spending some money instead of pocketing it. But I do feel great to answer your question. Yeah, it's a whole other show. But to answer your question, I think it's definitely a change.
I kind of compare it to the other New York team, the New York Giants. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on players if you have a bad front office, a bad ownership group. It doesn't matter. But if you have an ownership group take over that can change that culture, it's the difference between turning that corner. And once they sold the team, the Mets, it got me just like when the Giants fired Dave Gettleman. I'm like, all right, that's a step in the right direction for them, which is a step in the wrong direction for everybody else. So I do worry, like we joked that the Mets, it doesn't matter if they sign Scherzer. It doesn't matter what money they spend. It's still the Mets. Well, that's not the case anymore. You know what I mean? Because of the culture change that's happening in that organization.
I do agree with that. But then again, I'm always a skeptic, just the way the game itself is played nowadays. Sometimes I wonder, can you overcome that? And this is for any organization. In other words, if you're going to pay a Scherzer or a DeGrom $30 million a year, is it really worth it when you're only getting 5-6 innings out of these guys? So I'm a skeptic in general. So I just think the game has changed so much. It's not the game we grew up watching,
Right. Hey, real quick before I let you go.
There was a time you'd pay this guy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll say one last thing. There was a time you'd pay this guy $30 million a year, and he'd be giving you 7, 8, 9 innings. So those are games you guaranteed you were going to win. Why do you think DeGrom's getting 10, 11 wins a season with a 1.5 ERA? Because if you're pulling a guy when it's 1-0 after 7 innings, when he's got 92 pitches, the chances are he's going to get a no decision. Sorry, I'm going on tangent. Go on, Phil. Sorry.
You brought up DeGrom. I was going to ask you, is DeGrom going to pitch in the Mets uniform again?
They're saying in June, but listen, what we've seen the last 2 years, I'll believe it when I see it. Because last year, all we heard was that it wasn't a big deal, and we never saw him again. So,
but then
is it really him, or is it a ghost?
Yeah, but I was also saying because he kind of wants out of town too.
Yeah. Well, no. He didn't say he wants out of town. He wants to opt out of the contract to renegotiate it. So he actually said he wants to stay, but I think he's out of his fucking mind for that, because you're coming off this injury-plagued season. Then you say, I want to opt out of my contract at the end of the year, when you're owed 2 more seasons at $30 million plus per season. And then you don't even make it to opening day without an injury. It's a bad look, but this is, dude, you want to get into this Aaron Judge conversation? He just turned $230 million down. He's had 1 good season in his career. And even in that season, he struck out 210 times. It's crazy the money that's getting thrown around in baseball. Crazy.
It is, absolutely. All right, I'm going to let you go here, Aaron, because I can't talk anymore.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Thanks for coming.
I don't want to make you throw up.
Yeah, you already did. Have a good one, Aaron. All right. I got to get Jason back on the air here, What's up, Jason? How you doing? You're just patiently sitting there waiting to bash the Mets there, aren't you?
I mean, he's, like I said, he's my best friend. Give him the spotlight. I'm good. You know me, dude. He needs to be. Listen, we've had our World Series. I'm at least happy that he's happy, because I'll tell you what, he could be a miserable son of a bitch sometimes when the Mets are bad. So. Oh
man! Sure. All right, real quick here. We still only got like 15 minutes left. Let's finish talking about last night. the offense. I'll get your thoughts on on that 8th inning real quick, and then we'll look ahead to tonight. Your thoughts on what happened there in that 8th inning and how the Phillies were able to not just hit home runs, but manufacture, a 5-run inning there to come back and win that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, working the pitcher, Boom obviously leading off, getting on base there, and then, Schwarber coming through with it, with a hit, I believe it was, and then obviously JT. JT, like I said, I think JT, I really like him in the 2-hole.
Right.
Because I think this shows exactly the reason why. Him and Segura to me are interchangeable because they both have pop. Like, obviously they're not on the same level as like Schwarber and Castellanos, but they can, get the ball out of the ballpark, but they're also good at going the other way when they need to. And that's why I like the fact that they have that option to move them. Because right there is exactly why JT's power did come in handy because, obviously he hits the home run. And obviously, I thought the key hit in that sequence was the Didi hit.
Right.
Because obviously Didi was really, coming off really slow. And, a lot of people are, not happy that he's even on the team, let alone in the lineup. And for him to, get that hit there, I just think it's exactly what you said. I mean, this is why the Phillies are going to be dangerous regardless of the situation, regardless of the odds. I mean, we've seen teams, Phillies teams in the past that were able to overcome big deficits. I remember all the time they did it in 2007. Aaron talked about it. I remember that game vividly where Billy Wagner, blew it. But the fact of the matter is this team, as much as everyone's bragging about the fact that we can hit home runs, there's also guys on this team that can just seriously just hit. And Gene Segura, I've mentioned him a lot. Like I think he's very undervalued. Now, listen, last night he got picked off, and he does go through some of those brain cramps sometimes that make you shake your head. I know last year, we got on him, or maybe it was 2 years ago whenever Kapler was there, and they talked about the hustling and not holding him accountable. Maybe it was Girardi, but anyway, Segura occasionally has those times where you're like, why? But overall, if you look at Gene Segura's body of work, he plays really good defense. He's not Gold Glove, but he's really good at defense. And he just can hit the ball. And like I said, Bryce Harper, I know he's going to come along. I don't want to hear people overreacting because, listen, you're talking to the guy.
You're not going to overreact. Come on now.
No. I will never do that again. I learned my lesson, Phil.
No, but you have
Bryce
to.
Harper, listen,
we need you to overreact to turn it around.
Bryce Harper generally is usually a hot player in April, but not necessarily the first or 2 series because I've seen him do this where he might have. I think last year even. I don't think he started off really hot in the beginning of April in the first couple of games. And then he kind of did come on, and then he went on that little stretch where he struggled, and then obviously, we know what happened in the second half. But I'm not going to get on Bryce Harper 4 games in the season. I mean, it's just not – it's going to just happen. It's going to just start – he's going to just start raking. And up and down this lineup, they have guys – and that's why I'm not worried because if Harper's struggling, then the other guys pick him up. And then when Harper's hot, then maybe the other guys are struggling. It's just going to – it's the law of averages, Phil.
Yeah,
it's baseball. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, some thoughts on what all those different things. First off, Didi. I know Didi struggled last year, but Didi is still a good hitter. He might not be the hitter he used to be, but he's still a good hitter, and he came up clutch last night, which was great. It was. I really loved Reese Hoskins' actual double before Didi's hit, and Castellanos, really motoring around, the bases. Another piece that's missed, Kyle Schwarber beating out that double play ball in that inning because that could have easily changed the momentum. There was hustle. I mean, he looked like he had quicksand he was running in, but he hustled down and beat out that double play. Segura and JT, and I know you say you like JT in that 2-hole, and they're kind of interchangeable. I kind of still like Segura in the 2-hole a little bit more, and the reason isn't because of where Segura is. It's then that puts Didi behind Rhys Hoskins in the lineup and provides less protection. If you have JT behind Rhys in the lineup, it provides a little protection for Rhys. Because if Rhys gets hot and stays hot this year, which he's more than capable of doing, well, if he's up to the plate, unless the bases are loaded or something like that, and you got Didi, if he hits 210, 205 like last year, they're just going to pitch around Rhys Hoskins every single time. And that's the concern for me. But, it also goes away, that concern, if we eventually move on from Didi and have starting at shortstop every single day. So we'll see how that all plays out. But like you said, it's so easy for one guy to struggle right now. Actually, JT's kind of struggling too, because Bryce Harper has 1 hit on the season. JT only has 2 hits. Just one of them happened to be the big home run last night. 1 or 2 guys struggle. When you've got a lineup that just up and down the lineup, there's just mashers everywhere you go, 2 people can struggle. I mean, Kyle Schwarber's not on fire yet. It's really, honestly, it's been Bohm, it's been Stott, it's been Segura, it's been Hoskins. It's been the bottom half of the lineup, not the top half hitting so far.
Absolutely, which means that we're getting very close to a waterworks show or fireworks show here, right?
Right.
Like, these guys are going to start breaking out, and then it's going to be, we're going to have one of those crooked games where it's like 15-7 or 15-8.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's happening tonight, but I think
tonight, if you're Joe Girardi, you're filling up your lineup card tonight for tonight's game. Are you putting Stott back out there, or are you going to go give Bohm the shot because of confidence related part of it? What do you do when you fill out your lineup tonight?
I want to see both of them. They haven't had a game where both of them are in there. I'd like to see it. I think tonight should be the night. Huh?
So you're sitting Didi then instead?
Yeah, I would sit Didi tonight. I think they're going up against McGill. Is he? I believe. Well, he's a right-hander, right?
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts? I know you guys you've mentioned it. I'm not a fan of it because he's not done it enough. What are your thoughts on moving Bryce to center field just tonight, and putting Castellanos in right field maybe instead of DHing, and then you could get Didi, Bohm, and Stott in that lineup tonight?
Well, I've been saying either way, however way you do it, you can be creative. But yes, I don't know if they would put Harper in center, but Harper is capable. And I know that you said that you heard a report that he doesn't like it. But listen, I think at the end of the day, he would do whatever he wants to do.
Real quick, I totally forgot all about it till just now bringing up his name. Have you read anything about Bryce Harper's arm? I know he was grabbing his elbow last night, and he didn't come out of the game, but it seemed like he was in a little bit of pain last night. Did you see anything more updated on it?
I haven't looked. I was worried that he was going to be out of the game.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm glad that, when he did play through it, I figured, man, it's not be as bad as I thought. Because originally I was really concerned, when I saw him, because you can't afford a Bryce Harper injury, regardless of how good the lineup is. He's still your best player. And
all he said
at the end of the day,
all that I'm reading is Girardi said it's no big deal after the game. But yeah, I don't know. It does concern me because obviously, Bryce Harper's arm. He is one of the elite, throwers from the outfield. But we can't. You take Bryce Harper out of this lineup. I know we're stacked loaded, but still, Bryce Harper is still the heart of this lineup right there. So it does concern me. Hey, maybe throwing him in center field is good for him. It's less likely that he needs to have those cannon of throws from center field than he does from right field. Going right field to third base and stuff like that. So, maybe it helps, but you definitely, I would definitely like to see Girardi keep Bohm in the lineup tonight because A, he's confident at the plate, but B, it just shows some confidence in it. It helps build his confidence level up on a mental level and all.
I honestly, I look at Alec Bohm, and he realistically has the tools. He does have the tools. to be an elite hitter. Like, he could hit 300, hit 15 to 20 home runs, have 85 to 100 RBIs, like in this line, in a lineup, like in any lineup, really. But he can do that. But my problem is that he's so bad defensively at third base right now, and we know that. But I don't think taking him out of the lineup is a smart move. Like, you could use that bat. So I think Girardi needs to be super creative, and they can be with the DH. I mean, that's where you have to start looking at this lineup and saying, okay, well, Matt Vierling is giving you nothing. He really is. He's giving, and listen, the Matt Vierling stands are going to come at me. He's giving you zero right now. He really is. He's not doing anything. So why not try something different? Why not try Bryce Harper in center, put Castellanos in right or left, and put Bohm in DH? Try it.
Oh, put Schwarber in center field. Put Schwarber in center field.
I mean,
I'm just joking, kind of, sort of, maybe. I don't know. I'm just looking at it. I mean, he's only had 6 plate appearances, but Alec Bohm he's not recorded an out yet this year. Alec Bohm. Yes, it's 6 plate appearances, but 0 outs.
And that's why I'm saying it. To me, I think that's when you keep the guy in the lineup, and you do whatever you have to do to keep his bat in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of who you got to take out, because at the end of the day, you got to go with the hot hand, and that's what's frustrating. Even when you have a platoon, and I've seen it, like, even when there are platoons, you still have, in any platoon, there's always somebody that's kind of the dominant guy where, you play them more than the other one. And you always have that. And it's always whoever the hotter guy, whoever's doing better. And that, at least that's how I would do it if I was a manager. I don't just understand. And we've talked about platoons as far as, doing it with veterans, and the difference between doing it with veterans as opposed to young, kids. There's a big difference between the 93 Phillies when you had, Incaviglia, Eisenreich, Milt Thompson. You had all these guys that were 10-year veterans in the league. They're okay, and they're capable of doing that because they're already used to, the mentality that it takes to be in a platoon. When you have young kids, you need to keep them fresh. And, I've seen people saying it, and that's probably a lot to do with why Bohm's struggling more defensively, because it's mental. If you're not playing every day, it's hard to get out of a rut. It just is.
Do the Phillies win tonight? And or are you in the boat of me where you're concerned that this is Zach Wheeler's first time facing hitters this year?
It's funny. I'm in the same camp as you. Everyone would say, tomorrow is probably going to be an L because it's Scherzer. I think the Phillies have hit Scherzer in the past, and I think this lineup, can hit anybody. I'm actually agree with you. I'm not concerned, but I am a little bit curious as to how Wheeler is going to look tonight, because he hasn't thrown any pitches in any type of game other than the simulated, A-ball game that he, I believe, threw in spring. So I'm not saying I think they're going to lose, but I am a little bit.
How often can you get? How often are you going to get back-to-back games with a long reliever going like 4 innings and like lockdown? Last night Nick Nelson. I mean, out of nowhere, it was great. But let's not put your links to articles in my comments on Facebook, there, buddy. Yeah, I'm going to delete that. So you're not going to get back-to-back nights where long relievers are dominant, especially, like I said, the Mets are a really good offense, obviously.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, like I said, I know I was battling with Aaron on Twitter, but I love the guy and he loves me. But a lot of people are sleeping on the Mets lineup. Like, if you really look at their lineup, obviously, name value-wise, they're not on the same level as the Phillies, but they have guys in that lineup that, like I said, you can't really ignore them. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially the top half of the lineup. I mean, Brandon Nimmo is extremely underrated. Like, the guy plays very awesome defensive center fielder. Like, the guy, and he gets on base. He does everything a leadoff hitter should do. And then you have obviously, number 2 hole hitter. You got Francisco Lindor, which a lot of people are forgetting. He's only a year removed from being an elite shortstop. Elite. Top 3, top 2. I mean, the guy raked in Cleveland. I wanted him. When the Mets traded for him, I was jealous. I was like, damn, that's a guy I really would have loved the Phillies to get. Plays gold glove defense. And, he can hit 30 bombs, hit 300, have 10 steals, and be a monster in that offense. And then, oh, by the way, you got Pete Alonso, who we all know what he's capable of doing. I mean, yes, he's not going to hit 300, but he hits 260 with 40 bombs and 100 RBIs. I mean, that to me is a premium power hitter. So their lineup is definitely capable of competing with the Phillies lineup. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how is this game going to go tonight. I think, to me, whoever comes out firing first is going to win the game. I think because I don't think it will become a if Zach. See, the thing is Zach Wheeler, I don't think he'll be on the same pitch count that Ranger Suarez is. So if he's able to have a couple quick innings early, I think he could go 6. If he can get him to 6, I think the Phillies have a good shot. But I agree. I think it's going to be all depending on.
I'm not sure that I could see him getting to 6 innings tonight. I see 4 innings maximum, maybe into the 5th inning. But I even think that's pushing it with him. I could be wrong. But again, like you said, whoever gets out first, maybe. Let's be honest. The Phillies have only scored over 5 runs one time in the first game of the year. Maybe this is the night where the bats break out. Maybe it is. Maybe they need the bats break out. Maybe this is a game where they need 9 or 10 runs, to win this game because the Mets score 6 or 7. So we'll see how it plays out tonight. But yeah, I think this is big question mark, but we're going to end the show on one thing. This is a fantastic part. We're in first place, baby. With the win last night, not tied, not 3-way tie. We're in first place, baby. Nobody else the Union are in first place as well because they're undefeated so far in MLS play. But we're in first place, and that's a good thing. So let's keep that momentum going right there. This has been a fun, interesting show. My man Aaron checking out, the show and coming on today. Glad to have Mr. Met on the show today. That's what I'm just going to call him Mr. Met, from now on. So great to have him on. Thank you, Jason, for hanging in there in your car. Your neighbors are probably looking at what's this dude doing in his car right now, but it's okay.
I'm at Wawa.
Oh, you're still at the Wawa parking lot. Okay, you haven't even left Wawa yet. Oh, the Wawa people probably called the cops. Why is this guy loitering? Isn't there a sign that says no loitering in the parking lot?
There is, right in front of me.
Anyway, we're going to wrap the show up there for the day, everybody. Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. I'll be back tonight, 9 p.m. Fairway to Heaven as we go over the RBC Heritage, and we'll recap the Masters a little bit, my big weekend. So, everybody have a great day. Enjoy your Tuesday. Go Phils. Ring that bell. And, hey, Jason, see you later, brother. Have a good day.
Ring that bell.
Ring that